Once upon a time, in a small town, there was a young woman named Sarah. Sarah dreamed of a better life. She wanted to be happy, successful, and healthy, but she didn't know how to make these dreams come true. Sarah lived in a small house with her family. Her parents worked hard every day, but they were not rich. Sarah went to school, but she often felt tired and bored. She didn't feel excited about anything in her life. She thought, there must be more to life than this. One day, Sarah met a kind woman named Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green was older and had lived a full life. She had traveled the world, learned many things, and was always smiling. Sarah felt curious about her. "How do you live such a happy life?" Sarah asked. Mrs. Green smiled and said, "I created my life. I decided what I wanted and worked for it every day." Sarah was amazed. "How did you do that?" she asked. Mrs. Green sat down with Sarah and told her a story. "When I was young, I also felt lost. I wanted a different life, but I didn't know how to make it happen. One day, I decided to change. I started by setting small goals. Every day, I worked a little toward them. I believed in myself, even when it was hard." Sarah listened carefully. "You can do the same," Mrs. Green continued. "Think about what you really want. It could be anything: better health, a great job, or more friends. Then, set small goals. Take one step at a time, and soon you'll see the changes you want." Sarah thought about it for a moment. "I want to be happy and feel healthy," she said. "That's a good start," Mrs. Green said. "Now, what small steps can you take today?" Sarah thought hard. "I can start by eating better and getting more sleep," she said. "Perfect," Mrs. Green smiled. "Those are small steps, but they will lead you to a better life." The next day, Sarah began to eat healthier food and sleep more. At first, it was hard. She missed the junk food she used to eat. She wanted to stay up late watching TV. But every day, she reminded herself of her goals. She wanted to feel better, and she knew that these small steps would help. As weeks passed, Sarah felt more energy. She started to smile more. She felt happier. She was proud of the small changes she had made. Sarah also began to think about other things she wanted. She dreamed of having a job where she could help others. She loved talking to people and listening to their stories. She decided to become a teacher. She started reading books about teaching and attending local classes. She didn't give up, even when it was hard. She worked hard every day, and slowly she moved closer to her dream. After many months of hard work, Sarah became a teacher. She was so happy. She was proud of what she had done. She had created the life she wanted. One day, Sarah visited Mrs. Green and told her the good news. "I did it," Sarah said. "I became a teacher." Mrs. Green smiled and said, "I knew you could do it. You created your life, Sarah." Sarah now understood. She had worked for what she wanted. She had made small changes every day and never gave up. She created the life she wanted. And so can you. No matter where you are, no matter what your dreams are, you can create the life you want. Just take one step at a time, believe in yourself, and keep moving forward. Your dream life is waiting for you. Chapter 2: Overcoming Doubts and Fears. As Sarah continued her journey to becoming a teacher, she faced new challenges. One day she woke up and felt uncertain. Am I really ready for this, she thought. What if I fail? Doubt and fear started to creep into her mind. She began to question everything. What if I'm not good enough? What if I make a mistake in front of my students? Mrs. Green noticed that Sarah was struggling. She visited Sarah one afternoon and asked, "How are you feeling?" "I feel scared," Sarah replied. "I'm afraid I'm not ready to be a teacher. What if I fail?" Mrs. Green smiled kindly. "Everyone has doubts, but you must remember this fear is normal. It's part of the process. But don't let it stop you. Instead of focusing on fear, focus on your goals." Sarah looked at Mrs. Green. "How do I do that?" "Think about why you started," Mrs. Green said. "Remember your dream of helping others and making a difference. Your passion for teaching is bigger than your fear. When you feel afraid, remember that fear is just a feeling, and it will pass." Sarah took a deep breath. She understood what Mrs. Green meant. Fear and doubt were not signs that she couldn't succeed. They were just part of the process. That day, Sarah decided to take action despite her fear. She worked on her lesson plans and prepared for her first class. The morning of her first day as a teacher, her heart was racing, but she told herself, "I am ready. I can do this." When Sarah walked into the classroom and saw the students' faces, she smiled. She was nervous, but she pushed through. By the end of the class, she felt proud of herself. It wasn't perfect, but she had done her best. And that was enough. Chapter 3. Learning from Mistakes. As Sarah became more comfortable in her role as a teacher, she made mistakes. Sometimes she mixed up her lesson plans or forgot to explain something clearly. There were days when she felt frustrated. "Why is this so hard?" she thought. One afternoon, after a difficult lesson, Sarah went to Mrs. Green for advice. "I keep making mistakes, and I don't know if I'm cut out for this job," Sarah said. Mrs. Green listened carefully. Mistakes are a part of life. No one is perfect. The important thing is to learn from them. Sarah looked confused. "How can I learn from my mistakes? I just feel bad about them." Mrs. Green smiled. "The key is to look at your mistakes as opportunities to grow. Instead of saying, 'I made a mistake,' say, 'I learned something today.'" Sarah thought about this. So, mistakes are not failures. "Exactly," Mrs. Green said. "Mistakes are lessons. Every time you make a mistake, you are becoming better and stronger. The more you learn, the more you grow." Sarah felt a sense of relief. It was okay to make mistakes. They didn't mean she was failing. They meant she was learning. The next day, Sarah made a mistake again. She mispronounced a word while teaching. But this time, she didn't feel bad about it. Instead, she smiled and said, "Oops, I made a mistake. Let's fix it together." Her students laughed and followed her example. They were learning with her, not just from her. Chapter 4. Building Confidence. As Sarah continued to teach, her confidence grew. She became more comfortable with her lessons, and her students responded well. But it wasn't just her teaching skills that were improving. Sarah was also learning more about herself. She remembered how afraid she had been when she first started. Now, she felt stronger. She had learned to push through her fears, make mistakes without giving up, and believe in herself. One day, Sarah had a conversation with Mrs. Green. "I'm starting to feel confident. I believe in myself more now than I did before," Sarah said. Mrs. Green nodded. "That's wonderful, Sarah. Confidence comes from experience. It comes from doing something over and over, even when it's hard. The more you believe in yourself, the more others will believe in you too." Sarah smiled. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she had come so far already. She had created the life she wanted by taking action every day. She had worked hard, overcome her fears, learned from her mistakes, and built her confidence. Chapter 5: Helping Others Create Their Life. As Sarah became a better teacher, she started to notice something else. Many of her students had big dreams, but they were afraid to go after them. Some were too shy to speak in class, while others didn't believe they could achieve their goals. Sarah remembered how Mrs. Green had helped her, and she decided to help her students in the same way. She encouraged them to set goals and believe in themselves. She reminded them that they could create the life they wanted, just like she had. One day, Sarah sat with a student named Jack. Jack was shy and didn't think he could ever be a good student. "I'm not smart enough," Jack said. Sarah smiled and said, "You are smart enough, but just like me, you have to work hard and believe in yourself. It's not about being perfect. It's about doing your best." Jack looked at her, surprised. "You really think I can do it?" "I know you can," Sarah said. "If you start with small steps, you will get closer to your dream, just like I did." Jack smiled and decided to try harder. Over time, he began to believe in himself more. He worked hard and his grades improved. Sarah was proud of him, but she was even prouder that she had helped him see his own potential. Chapter 6: Living the Dream. Years passed, and Sarah continued to teach. She became well known in her community for being an inspiring teacher who helped her students believe in themselves. She was also living the life she had always dreamed of, helping others, feeling happy, and being healthy. One day, Mrs. Green visited Sarah again. "Look at you," Mrs. Green said with a smile. "You've created the life you wanted, haven't you?" Sarah looked around her classroom. Her students were smiling and learning. She had helped so many of them find the courage to chase their dreams. "I have," Sarah said, "and now I can help others do the same. I can teach them how to create the life they want." Mrs. Green gave her a big hug. "I knew you could do it, Sarah. You've made your dreams come true, and now you're helping others do the same. That is the greatest gift." Sarah's story teaches us that we all have the power to create the life we want. It's not always easy. There will be challenges, doubts, and mistakes along the way. But if you keep going, believe in yourself, and take small steps every day, you can make your dreams come true too. So, what do you want for your life? What is your dream? Remember, you are the creator of your life. Take the first step today and keep moving forward. You can do it.